Hey, welcome back. There's something captivating about stories. If I'm listening to somebody else speak and they start telling a story, my attention span instantly goes off the charts. Start giving lists or facts or other kinds of information, not the same at all. Some people say the Bible is basic instructions before leaving Earth, but the Bible's not written as an instruction manual. Not in the typical sense. Certainly not like the ones you get from IKEA or some other store when you buy a product. The Bible's written in a series of stories. It starts with the story of Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, Noah. The first major story in the Bible, where we get a real glimpse into two people's lives and how it goes kind of from, not quite from the start, but for a long section of their lives, is Abraham and Sarah. I don't think that's an accident. In fact, Sarah's the first woman mentioned by name since Eve. And I believe their story has a powerful story to tell us. Before we get into that story, I just want to say one thing. I didn't create this series to be against the church or to undo my past or to be disparaging or demeaning to anyone in any way. My growing up years with church were largely positive, and I believe that most people, if not everyone around me, was teaching me what they knew and doing their best and loved me and loved God. But that doesn't mean they knew everything. It doesn't mean they knew how good God actually is and how good the story actually is. So Abraham and Sarah had a problem. Every story, good story, starts with a problem. Abraham and Sarah's problem was they couldn't have children. At 75 years old, God steps into that story, their story, and says, I can solve this. I can not just make you a father, Abraham. I can make you the father of a mighty nation. In fact, in you and your descendants, all the families, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. What a promise. How could he say no? God says, all you need to do is come with me. Just come follow me. I'm going to lead you. You follow. I'll take care of the rest. So he does. He leaves home, moves to Canaan. Life begins to unfold. Pretty ordinary. Some stuff happens. Some choices are made. Some unfortunate choices. Before you can barely turn pages in the story, a decade has passed. 10 years. And Abraham's getting frustrated. He came on this journey because God told him they would have children, and nothing has happened. You see, before God got involved in the story, it was just Abraham and Sarah and their problems. But when God got involved, things were supposed to get better, but they haven't. So Abraham in his frustration says to God, listen, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. You're not doing what you promised you were going to do. So I've come up with another plan. I'm going to adopt. God says, no, I'm going to do what I said I was going to do. You see, one key truth in the story of Abraham and Sarah is that God never put a timeline on what he said he was going to do. He never said you're going to have a kid by this time or that time. He just said it's going to happen. But for Abraham and Sarah, the clock is ticking. He was 75 when this whole promise thing started, and the end is approaching. Sarah is not going to be able to have kids forever. As the time is unfolding, marching on, waiting for no man, the pressure on Abraham and Sarah is mounting. You see, God made a promise. They took it on as pressure. Promise, pressure. They're two very different things. And in Abraham and Sarah's life, the promise was a son. The pressure was we have to have one at any and all costs. For the Christian, the promise is that God's going to restore us. He's going to make us new. He's going to make us back into the people we were supposed to be before this whole mess started. It's a big promise. We study the promise. We study what we're supposed to be like. And the more we study what that is, the more we realize that's not what we are. And the pressure increases. Somewhere along the way, we've shifted the story from a promise to pressure. From his power to our performance. And I'm becoming increasingly and more painfully aware as I get older and I talk to more people and I hear more people's stories. That there are an awful lot of people in and outside the church who are living under an enormous amount of pressure. For some, the pressure got so great that they left because they figured there was no point. It's not the story. It was never the story. But it's become the story. See, the fact that it's not the story doesn't change the fact that it's become the story. And religions worldwide of every stripe are all based on the pressure to perform. If you get to this level, you'll get this reward. Most people look at the levels and go, I'm not going to make it. And if you're not going to make it from the outset, and you know you're not going to make it from the outset, why would you ever take the journey? And so many don't. Many are born onto the bus. And they stay on the bus long enough to realize, I can't make the cut. I can't make the grade. And they get off the bus. Listen, the pressure got so bad in Abraham and Sarah's life that Sarah came to her own husband, whom she loved, and he loved her. Story's clear on that, even though Abraham did some stupid things. And she said, honey, listen, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe you should find a second wife. In fact, I already know who it should be. Take my servant girl, Hagar. Have children with her. I'm sure that she was hoping that he would say no. That she was hoping that he would say, honey, listen, God said he would do this. He will do this. But that's not what happened. And see, my burden with the church, and I consider myself part of the burden, I'm not attacking anyone or anything, is that when people become overburdened with the pressure, like Sarah did, when they come and say, listen, I'm out, because I'll never make it. Maybe other people can do it. Maybe you should go work with them, but I'm out. When people become overwhelmed with the pressure, when they think, man, I'm not going to make it, I'm not good enough, look what I've done, that's where the church thrives, or should thrive. That's why God called us to walk together, not alone. That's why he said a cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. When people get into that woe is me mentality, that's when the church should be coming around them and saying, whoa, wait a minute. That's not the story. Your mistake, your inability to perform, your guilt, your shame, that's what the promise is for. That's what he said he would fix. That ongoing barrenness, it will end. You being stuck with you will end. The woman in Sabbath school, decades, hoping the kids would make it, but having decided she already wouldn't. That's where the church should have come in to make the difference. You should not be able to be around the body of believers over and over and over again, week after week, and month after month, and year after year, and decade after decade, and still think that you're doomed. The church is a good news outfit. My church believes it was called to proclaim the everlasting gospel, which means the everlasting good news. You're a sinner? Join the club. You keep getting up and falling down again? Join the club. You're tempted to believe it'll never change? Join the club. Sometimes you feel like you want to give up and go try something else? Join the club. Sometimes you think everybody else will make it, but you won't. Join the club. But there's something about the club you need to know. It's not about us. It's not about our stumbling and bumbling. It's not about our repeated ups and downs and failures. It's about the fact that when we got into this journey with God, He promised. He promised. And we are here not because we're good enough, but because we believe that God will keep His promise. You can leave if you want to, but the fumbling and the bumbling won't stop. The only difference is you will have given up on the only one who can do anything about it. That's what the church is supposed to be. And it's what I believe the church will become. Because I believe God keeps His promises. And one of them is to turn the church into the bride she was meant to be. If you stay on this journey with me, I am going to get repetitively obnoxious about this theme. I'm going to show you from story after story after story that God's whole book, when we see it correctly, when all the truths and verses and stories line up, they all tell the same thing. I did not come to condemn you. I came to seek and save the lost. God bless. We'll see you next time.